Previously on Spies Like Us.
Welcome back to Spies Like Us. This is part 2 of our sneakers episode. And if you're not already familiar with the film, you might want to go back and give part 1 a listen. While you're at it, you might want to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app so that you can always stay caught up with us.
That said, if you do just want to jump in right here with us, that's fine. I'll give you a quick recap just in case. Our main character, Martin, played by Robert Redford, stole a black box and then realized that he accidentally gave it over to some very bad people. Now they think they probably need to steal the box back for their own safety. Who are those bad people, and who else is on the chessboard here in this cat and mouse spy game? Let's dig into it on this follow-up episode of Spies Like Us. Let's talk us some Mary McDonnell, buddy.
Well, I mean, she was President Rosalind and Mama Darko. So
I dug the fuck out of her in BSG. Wasn't that big a fan of Donnie Darko.
Blasphemy.
What does she get to do in this movie?
Actually, they actually don't get to use her for a whole lot. I think you wanted to run the test on her for this one, for sneakers, because they have this really talented actress, and the character herself is very well educated, very charismatic, very, I guess collected, and she's the mature one in the entire cast, I guess. So they only use her to kind of seduce a guy. She's just kind of around. The first thing that she's used for is the team's got to get the black box, and they have to go to this like a scientist lecture who's an expert on large numbers and algorithms, who's apparently cracked unbreakable codes or something. And Martin doesn't know any of this stuff. I mean, like we discussed before, he's not like this super bright guy. He's just a very charismatic, thinks fast on his feet type of guy. And he basically goes to his lecture and he brings her along, and she's the educated one. So she's the only one that really figures out that the scientists figured out how to break unbreakable codes. And I just love how much Martin is so bored by the presentation. And then she tells him that it's about breaking unbreakable codes. And then all of a sudden he's like fascinated, just wakes up. And I think that was like one of your favorite scenes or shots in the movie.
It is, it's very cute.
Yeah, and then later she's used to seduce Ned, who's the asset that they targeted to get into the villain's office, because that guy had an office next door. So they kind of used her as just like kind of a pretty face to giggle and laugh and record him while he's talking. Because they needed to get into the building, they needed a security card to swipe, and they needed to have his voice speak a specific password. And so they got her to record him saying each word in that phrase. And so that was the entire date. But she played it very well. I mean, for someone...
I want to ask you this, though.
Right.
You just used the term asset, and you know the spy terminology better than I do. Does this actually qualify here, since they don't actually change his motivations or anything? But would you use the word asset?
Oh, of course. Assets don't need to be aware of what's going on.
Cool.
They're just someone that has access to information or access to a particular area that you need or something. Like, you could just be like, for example, let's say they didn't need to get in the building and they used Liz to get information. Like if there was like a keypad door or something, or I don't know, like if they were going on to a big convention and what they were working on, she could butter him up and make him feel good about himself, and he might let it slip out that they're working on this big code breaking scheme, or who knows, right? You know what I mean? He doesn't need to know.
So we would call that an unwitting asset,
right? Yeah, and I guess the terminology would be elicitation of information, where your target or asset is unaware of what's going on. Yeah.
right? Now, I mean, there is a very specific term that is used in tradecraft parlance that we need to apply to her right here, which is, I mean, she's a honey trap, right?
Yeah, yeah, you could definitely call her a honey trap. Yeah, uh, and she definitely plays the humming really really well, which is basically what she gets to do as far as tradecraft is kind of like procure items and information from this target.
Which I mean, she's very smooth at, and I like that about her.
She was very smooth, had the smile, giggled at the right times, knew how to like, feed his ego a little bit despite him being super, super awkward from the get-go, you know. And then at the apartment when he basically asked her to come back, for a little nightcap, so to speak. She's able to grab his wallet and pass it out the window to Mother, who Mother can then get the key, and then he returns the wallet. She takes the wallet back and puts it back. So she's able to pull off this really cool sleight of hand, so to speak, while he's not paying attention. And for someone, her character is not really that trained from what we understand.
Which I'm fine with as an audience member. I'm just a little iffy on, the realism on that one.
Yeah. I will say, though, that she does have my number 3 worst tradecraft. And I don't know if this is so much her, but she leaves her purse when she goes to make a phone call. She's pretending to be somebody else with a complete stranger that's obviously super creeper. And she's going to leave her purse alone with the guy. So I'm going to put that down. But I don't think it's her character so much as they needed to write it into the story.
I think you should pin that on Kreese. He's supposed to be the worrier. He's supposed to be the one with the most experience. He's supposed to be the CIA guy that knows that when you put one of your assets, you can call friendly people assets, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Sure. When you put one of your assets in play, like in this kind of situation, I think I think it's like probably maybe in the first week of CIA 101 training is like, if you're pretending to be someone else, first thing, don't carry your own identification on you.
Yeah, I know, right? That's definitely a good point.
Obviously, like if we went Bechdel test on like all of our movies, we'd be here for days. There's a reason I want to talk about this one. We did a James Bond movie and the Our Man Flint movie very recently, which obviously are just like horrifying examples of
right.
Of putting the female characters like off to the side. But this is like, this 30 years later, and like seems like a very like bright, snappy script where I feel like we probably should have expected more out of this one. I mean, McDonald shines. That's cool. But she's literally like the only female character in a sea, like a literal sea of male characters.
Yeah. Yeah. There's only like 2 other girls in the whole movie.
I think, there's like there's 2 girls in the bank that each have like 2 lines. And then at the end of the movie,
oh yeah, there's the NSA woman. That's right.
which clearly only showed up in like, the only reason that they made her a female was so that they would have an opportunity for her to give her phone number to a guy.
Yeah, that was her entire purpose in the whole film.
I swear, if that part hadn't been necessary, they never would have thought about like putting a female on that team.
Yeah, and it wasn't like there were other women on that team. It was literally the only woman on that team. So it's not like Carl picked her out of like any like whatever. It was just like, oh, a lady.
Yeah. Well, I think we gave McConnell her due and her character Liz her due for this movie. We got to get on to these villains, buddy.
Oh yeah, the villain.
The
villain.
Tell me about him.
Well, you all know him very well as Gandhi, but in this movie he plays the villain, Ben Kingsley, plays Cosmo, this kind of megalomaniac tech guru type. This would have been well, I guess Steve Jobs and Bill Gates existed, but they weren't like the mega people they were like most recently. But this was a really interesting character, and Todd and I wanted to really give him a lot of special attention because Bishop and his relationship is really, really powerful, and it's probably the most big meat of the film. When we first meet him, it's when Martin Bishop gets pretty much kidnapped, and at this point, we had all been told, the audience had been told that he died in prison. Oh, and Cosmo, turned out to be the best friend from the beginning of the movie.
Right,
yeah. The one that got arrested, that Martin Bishop felt super guilty about.
He's got an axe to grind, possibly.
Right. Little bit of bitterness, but he's not doing so bad for himself because apparently he needed this box because he works for the mob, which is how he got out of prison. They found out that he knew some phone freaking skills, and he became their database manager or something, which is why they needed the box, because they didn't want the government watching in on their stuff. So they stole it specifically not to use it, but to protect themselves from, But,
right. So he's created a safe niche in the ecosystem of organized crime. It sounds like as basically like their database manager, IT guy, encryption guy. Right.
Right.
But he's also still got his like revolutionary tendencies, which he only specifically like doesn't want to talk to Martin about while people might be listening, and takes him into a safe room, like after explaining like basically like what's happened to him, but he's got more to tell, but he really wants to make sure that this is something that his supposed like supervisors or bosses can't be snooping on him.
Right, and I actually really want to talk about this whole scene step by step, because each step that Cosmo tries to flip Bishop is actually really, really well thought out. So he first starts out by talking about the crime organization and why they needed the black box. And he doesn't really say it straight up, but this kind of implies a monetary reward, that he's climbed the ranks and he's like a powerful guy. And so maybe he can seduce Martin into coming in and working with them or helping them out. To which Martin immediately says, I don't buy it, because he knows his friend really well. And without skipping a beat, Cosmo goes, oh, it's great to see you again. And he then points up at a lamp as if they're listening, shushes them, and they walk into a room that's supposedly secure. And then like crafts this whole speech about, remember our idea in college, we're going to beat the system, we're going to shut down big money, we're going to beat banks, currencies, commodities, nothing, no more rich, no more poor, everyone is equal. Here's the ideology, you know what I mean? To which Martin responds, oh, you're just crazy. So then what Cosmo does is go over to the computer with the box, hooks up to the FBI database, and looks up Martin Bryce, who's Bishop's real name, who's the one that's been on the run. And he goes and he puts in under aliases for Martin Bryce, Martin Bishop. And then proceeds to say, guess what? That gun that killed the Russian has your prints all over it. And they're going to tie that to the murder of the scientist, the mathematician that was murdered. So the reason why I want to bring these steps up is he systematically used a very specific system that actually is used in flipping people. He used monetary value. He then used like ideology with this grand romantic story. And then he used like leverage, like coercive leverage, even though he wasn't really flipping him. He didn't really like use it as bait because he committed putting his name in, but it was like kind of like a show of force. But I just really got excited about the order in which all of these came in.
I like that, but I do see what you're
which,
saying.
By the way, sorry, because this is my number 3 best tradecraft.
Oh,
Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that. So we make sure we get the ding
Yeah.
opportunity. But yeah, I feel you, and I like that order of operations. On watching it several times, I feel like it's handled actually a little bit sloppy. Um, I'm still not 100% sure, like, what his primary motivation was whether to recruit Martin or to throw Martin under the bus. It does look like he had, like, I mean, clearly, like, plan A, recruit Martin, is like on the top of his list, but he switches to plan B so fast.
Right.
And I think I should give him like some minus spy points for, if recruiting Martin was the primary goal, even though, like, I'll give him plus spy points for having two goals, and it could go either way, and either way he seems to be happy with the outcome. I think he didn't invest enough in plan A. There's just the one little moment where Robert Redford says, like, "You are crazy," and you do see Kingsley's lip twist a little.
A little twitch, yeah.
Yeah, a little twitch. But it just maybe it's just, I don't know, minus mad scientist villain points.
Yeah.
But he gets a lot of mad scientist villain points for having sharks. You gotta have sharks.
Yeah, but it might have been a demonstration of actual strength in the hopes that Martin will join him. Because we have this big hole that we end up discussing. I don't know if we want to talk about this now, but when Cosmo just lets him go and doesn't really do anything, that might be what he was waiting for, was to have Bishop come back crying and begging for help after the FBI chases him. I don't know.
Well, here's what I think is the problem with that too, is like having these two goals that he has, which is okay, we know that he wants the black box, right?
Right.
He wants the black box for two reasons: a superficial one and a deeper one. On the superficial level, he wants the black box to protect his mob contacts that he has made.
Right.
On a deeper level, he wants to do a whole Fight Club thing, like, we're gonna destroy all the banking records, all records of ownership, and like it's gonna be like the hugest revolution ever, and like, everyone's gonna be equal.
Yeah.
This very, very high level egalitarian leftist terrorist psycho thing.
Yeah.
I guess here's my problem. Like, he knows about the box. We know he wants the box. We know that he would like to have revenge against Martin. And by the way, he could have arranged his revenge against Martin without showing his face.
Right.
He could have done it from a distance. He's obviously figured out, like, who and where Martin is. Otherwise, he wouldn't been able to drag Martin into the whole situation in the first place.
Right.
So I get some, and this is, I don't know, you can call it pedantic, but this is what we like to do, Spies Like Us, is like get deep into this. Here's my minus logic points for the film. Either he found out about the box first, or he found Martin first. Either way, it doesn't make sense for him to sit on either of those pieces of information. If he had found out about the box first and not known where Martin was, he would have gone for the box. If he had found out where Martin was but not known about the box, he would have just gone for his revenge. It's way coincidental that he finds out about the box and finds out where Martin is in roughly the same time period.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
There's also like a big fuck up that he makes after he makes.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have. Well, it's not even after the whole story of the film. They do not follow him whatsoever. Like, They didn't follow him before the fact. They didn't follow him after the fact. They didn't follow him after they dropped him off. Nobody is watching him. And if they were, they would have seen him go to the lecture with Liz. They would have then like started watching Liz, found out where her apartment was, so that when they dropped him off in the middle of nowhere, he wouldn't be able to hide at Liz's apartment because they would have known where Liz's apartment is.
100% correct.
And it's just kind of and they had a warehouse office for the team that they had to desert because he's like, oh, this place isn't safe. We got to leave. You know where we should go? My ex-girlfriend's apartment, that I just started hanging out with when all this stuff went down. Like, no one is watching this guy. And then they drop him off and they're still not watching him. So he gets to regroup with his team and plan this like elaborate heist.
Which probably takes him like 2 weeks to plan at least.
Yeah, and then to execute, you're talking what, another like this isn't something that happened overnight, right? Dude, Rick Sanchez would be like irate right now over how ridiculous this heist is. How like nobody's watching this guy, and then like everything just
Right, you threw out your master revenge plan, and then you just like forgot about him, and like just I don't know what, like assumed that he made his way back to Canada. He'd done it before. You could have fixed this, even though like there aren't, this film doesn't. So it would have been a break in some kind of continuity to have a scene with the villains by themselves. Like
right.
we don't ever get any scenes like that, right?
Right.
Yeah, we never get to see what they're doing. But like an easy fix would have been like, I don't know, one of the goons reporting back to Cosmo.
That's the thing.
And saying,
he has
like,
these ex-NSA goons, which we'll talk about in a minute. But like, and he doesn't have them like run surveillance on him.
Yeah, exactly. But like I was saying, like it would have been a little continuity break with the perspective of the film. But like a very short 5 seconds of them reporting back to Cosmo and saying like, yeah, he's disappeared, no idea where he went, and Cosmo could say, well, he disappeared once again, I guess he's done it. He disappeared once before, I guess he's done it again. And that would have like given us like an indication of like why Cosmo like totally takes his eye off the ball.
Right.
But like we're saying, instead he lets his nemesis loose and then just totally forgets about him.
Like a Bond film. He's just like, the FBI will take care of him. Let me go pet my cats or my sharks. I'll go pet my sharks.
And that is officially your...
Oh, that's my number one worst tradecraft by far. It's just not having anybody follow Martin. And I think, yeah.
It's my number 3 worst because I got some humdingers coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. But let's talk about the goons.
Let's talk about them. I love these guys.
Yeah, these guys are great. They pose themselves as NSA.
Well, let's make sure because we're using a nickname for them. We're calling them the goons, but we're talking about who?
We're talking about these 2, which we find out later, NSA agents, which they've been faking this whole time, that are working for Cosmo, and they're very, very experienced.
They really seem to have their pattern down, their good cop, bad cop thing going on. Like the one, just the one brutal guy that just seems like he really just love nothing more than to smash Robert Redford's pretty face in, which he gets to do like 3 times in the movie.
Yeah, I know, right?
Without, of course, ever giving, like we never see a bruise.
Yeah, ever
on that pretty face.
Yeah,
not in this film. Not in my contract.
Yeah, but they really go to town on Martin. At the beginning, they're the ones that basically coerce Martin into going after the black box, and they actually have this whole elaborate way of flipping Martin, or I guess gaining Martin to basically do their bidding. the way they start out is they show up and they're dressed really nice. So Martin's all excited because they have nice shoes. He's like, big client, right? And they start out by going over the team and talking about all their old legal troubles and past, like, Whistler has all these phone crimes, and, mother, got arrested for this, and Crease is ex-CIA, and he was forcibly had to leave, but no reason listed why. And Martin Bishop, funny thing is, he's got no record. So they very right off the bat just start really, really demeaning the team about like, wow, you guys are a bunch of crooks, should we even trust you?
What's important about this? What's important about this subtlety of the way that they do this? It makes it look like, it makes it look like Robert Redford's team is not their first choice. It's right. Like if they came in and said like, oh, you guys are the best,
right?
And we want to hire you. That might have. I don't know how alert they expect Robert Redford's character to be, but everything that you just said. What I love about it is they start out with like an undersale. Like, yeah. you guys kind of suck.
Yeah, which also works to their advantage later when we find more about what they're looking for. Because now they can threaten not only Bishop's past, but they can threaten the team's past. So I think this worked out, like, was a huge, like, ticking time bomb, as well as a great lead-in.
100%. Because later, when they actually, like, have to, like, they let, like, you always want the Mark to feel like he is cleverer than you, right?
Right.
So that's what they did, I think, is they set him up to think that he had figured them out, and then they were like, kind of like, oh, yeah, you kind of got us. The reason we need your bullshit team is because we need to do something tiny bit illegal.
Right, which would totally explain their whole case. Yeah.
But if they had led with that card, if that was their first card, then this wouldn't be your number 2 best tradecraft.
No. They actually play their cards out perfectly and demonstrate how well experienced these two guys are. They start demeaning the team, and like you said, really leads in like, hey, we could go somewhere else. Then Bishop figures out that they're government, but then they show them they show him one of their aces, which is basically the fact that they know that Martin Bishop is Martin Bryce. So that forces him to call them, say, okay, well, now I have to see what they have to say. I can't just turn these guys away. And when he shows up, they start playing more cards. Look, we can't do this because we can't spy on Americans because we're not the FBI. And the CIA can't do it because CIA can't spy on Americans. And we're NSA. We just use signals and stuff. And, and it's kind of illegal. So it's not something we can actually ask the FBI. So right. We really need your help here.
We could do it, but you need congressional approval for that. And we don't have time for that.
Right. This is again, national security.
Just totally feeds into their story. It's great, and it makes sense because out of our entire cast of characters that we have out here, never minding Crease for a moment that's on our team, these are the only 2 guys that are literally meant to be trained and spec'd in this kind of stuff.
Right.
And they pull it off. They do their job well, and good job Cosmo for hiring these guys.
Right, it's like another day of work with them, and that's why I made my number 2 definitely, because it was so well executed.
I'll give them just one minus 5 points thing. Just one mistake I think they made. I think it was dumb of them, and actually I don't know if it was them specifically, because we also know that we have the black guy that shows up in the tunnel.
The FBI, the FBI agent.
Right. So like he's another goon. We only ever see him in that one scene, but that also suggests that there's other dudes,
Mm-hmm.
that are doing the same thing as our two favorite goons.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but somebody gets some minus 5 points for killing the mathematician before they confirmed possession of the box.
Yeah, that was definitely a bad move.
I mean, and again, let's go back to if they knew, if they had been following Martin's team closely enough to know that he had possession of the box, again, they absolutely would have known about Liz. They absolutely would have known about, just follow up on the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Mother, Crease, Crease, oh, look, just take surveillance. He's a family man, right? He's married. Yeah. He's the only one with a wife. Just check out his house. Oh, look, he's leaving the house and his wife doesn't seem happy about it. Where's he going?
Yeah.
Oh, look, he's going over to this apartment that, we last saw Martin with. Anyways, enough about that.
Yeah. But we do got to give him some plus spy points. Especially our gripe about disappearing buildings.
Right, because we did not like the disappearing building in Our Man Flint.
No.
But here's how you do it right. David, tell us how you do it right.
What you do is you look up buildings that are supposed to be demolished in a short period of time. You then rent out an office in that building and then never show up again, and the building's demolished. Kaput, it's gone. There's no more building. You don't spend $1 bajillion to have a building that floats down in an elevator for no reason. No. What you do is you set up a meeting with a guy and then disappear along with the building because it's getting demolished in 2 weeks.
And I mean, not to suck these guys' dicks too hard. my first instinct was possibly to give minus 5 points to Martin for getting taken in. But honestly, when you look through it, the way they played it, you can't give him minus 5 points. It has to be plus 5 points for these guys. These guys are pros.
Absolutely. They definitely show off a lot of their skill. It was really fantastic. But there's a lot of other guys we got to talk about here.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We mentioned a Russian diplomat, quote unquote, who finds Martin at the mathematician's lecture, and they clearly know each other. We haven't really figured out how they know each other, but he obviously used to be KGB or is still KGB, but he's operating under some cultures, something, because the times have changed. The Cold War is over.
Well, here I think is an interesting time to jump back to Martin real quick. Our main character that we never, we have no idea who this Martin Brace Bishop person is, or how he acquired his skills, or his, I don't know, understanding of how this whole espionage, surveillance shit works.
Yeah, I don't know. This was kind of weird, but considering that Gregory knew Liz, he's super excited to see her. I'm wondering, and we know that Martin is super anti-Republican, and considering the time of the movie was probably somewhere in the late 80s, maybe contemporary of the early 90s, he probably was part of some movement and probably worked with the KGB in some way or form. I mean, that's about the best way I could piece it. And that's why Liz and him knew Gregory, is because they were probably activists and were commies of some sort. I don't know. That's the best I can get. Because we don't get a whole lot of information about their relationship or their past.
Yeah, same here. It's kind of a blank spot.
But this is the diplomat that we find asking Martin in the car if he wants asylum, and I had pointed out as one of my worst tradecraft decisions for Bishop, because he knew this guy but didn't know the FBI, and so he literally, the car was considered foreign soil, so This guy wasn't like a lightweight. Yeah. I'm actually not sure why he was in the movie. Oh, I guess just for the moment where they could shoot him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Poor guy. I liked him. He was fun.
You don't see James Earl Jones as. Can you think of another comedic role that he's ever shown up in? He shows up at the very end, of course.
I've never seen him do comedy. I've seen him in comedies, but he's always playing like the super serious guy.
He handles the straight man role pretty fucking well in this one at the very end.
Yeah, but he still does a little bit of comedy. He's not even, like he was in Soul Man, and he was in like a Field of Dreams.
Coming to America, which I haven't seen.
Coming to America.
I think you told me he's an absolute straight man in that one, though.
Oh yeah, he plays the king, and he's very dismissive of everyone, and he's just always serious. But like this, he actually like plays like a little bit animate. He's not just like deadpan, like I'm James Earl Jones. Like it's like I always think of the Raven or like Mufasa or like Darth Vader. But having him in this role, he got to like be a little bit more animated.
They let him like kind of like let the people kind of get under his skin and let him show like some annoyance and some let's get this over with. Let's get this over with. I really don't want to be here. I don't want to be dealing with this. I just want my box and I want out.
Yeah. But this tells us the NSA definitely knew about the box, and I think we were told the mathematician was government funded. So it's kind of minus spy points. They haven't had people babysitting Martin's team, Gregory, Cosmo's guys. Clearly everybody wants this box. Like, where in the world is the black box, right? So you should have had some sort of surveillance, right?
Yeah. So we're doing a bit of deduction here to notice that the mathematician was a government researcher. That's how his death was reported on the news. And apparently, like, Jones's number one objective is just to make sure that nobody knows about the black box. Right. And those two things together strongly suggest, even though it's not explicitly stated, that they were the ones that were funding the black box, right? And that also fits in with like Martin's observation that this only would have been useful against domestic code breaking, not foreign.
Right, because Gregory's the one that says, "Oh, your codes are very strange. They're very different than ours. We don't want it. We just want it so we could spy on you." So that tells us that it was specifically designed to spy on Americans.
And a scientist himself, if he's working on, if the NSA is funding this government cryptography project, not only should they have been watching him, but he should have been under some kind of like classification or gag order or like whatchamacallit that would not involve him giving public lectures on, how he's getting close to figuring out how to break every code in the fucking universe.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's my number two worst right there. Is the NSA. If you go back, I think the NSA had to have known about the box. I think it was their box. And they just slept on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gets worse though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like, do they even know it works? Because Martin says that it didn't ever work, and they didn't care. They just wanted to make sure nobody knew it existed or was even being worked on. But Martin says it doesn't work because Martin had stolen the chip. But, I mean, the chip was really big. How did they not notice this giant missing slot, And it's like, what makes this, like, the box, like, work, I don't think they would have, like, not noticed the missing chip. So
we do get one scene or one shot of the interior of the box, and it's not like just a tiny chip on the side out of many. This is like one big chip sitting right in the middle of the box
with like wires and stuff, and
right, and everything else is just connected to it.
Yeah.
So it's impossible that they wouldn't open the box and not. It's impossible that they wouldn't notice that the heart of the box was missing.
Yeah.
Which again goes back to that's more proof that they don't actually care about having possession of the box. They just absolutely don't want anyone to know that they were working on the box.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
Yeah, that would be really bad.
Yeah, just like the team intimates, in their conversation with Jones, it'd sure be bad if the CIA and FBI knew what you guys were up to, and that's the main thing that Jones just wants to quash.
Right. And and that's why they make a deal and they get all their little Christmas wishes from Santa Jones here. And it was all silly stuff, and I guess they just move on.
It's fun callbacks. It's nice comedy.
Yeah, but what I don't understand was why the hell Martin bankrupted the RNC at the end. I mean, putting aside clearly the movie has a particular political bias they're going for, especially with Robert Redford on cast, but that literally just showed that he had the chip. He'd be the only person that'd be capable of doing that.
I think it's worse than that. It's not just that he it's the fact that he bankrupts the RNC. Remember in '69 they were transferring large amounts of money, which maybe could have been missed in the mix or whatever. They're getting away from shit, getting away with stuff.
Right.
But when you bankrupt the RNC, that's absolutely going to be noticed and it's going to be fixed. Unless, of course, you route that money through some untraceable Swiss accounts or shell corporations or some shit like that. Which, the movie clearly, I mean, this is all coming from just that little, sweet little moment at the end.
Right.
That we're supposed to, have our liberal hearts swell.
Yeah. Right.
But it's absolute garbage. You can't do something. That's my number one worst. It has to be. You can't be excused for going that big. You can't do something that noticeable and not expect for it to be immediately reversed.
And instead of rerouting the money, he gave it to these super revolutionary groups or whatever. And that was the big news story. No one is ever going to notice. It was pretty silly.
And B, for the NSA to immediately circle around back and hit Robert.
Yeah, and be like, you guys, this was never supposed to have happened. I got you your stupid Winnebago.
Right! You're breaking the terms of the deal.
Yeah. I think we got one last thing to talk about. We gotta talk about the Scrabble game.
C-Tech Astronomy.
Too many secrets.
Considering if you, this is the kind of movie that's got a certain scene in it, that if you had seen the movie, haven't seen it in 5 years, 6 years, there's probably going to be one scene that you remember the most. And that's the scene where Martin unscrambles the he does the anagram of C-Tech Astronomy into Too Many Secrets.
Yeah.
It's not actually consequential in the film. I mean, it's part of a,
whatsoever, but yeah.
It's part of a big, this is the part where meanwhile Whistler is figuring out just how terrible the black box is.
Yeah.
But him unscrambling the letters doesn't actually mean anything.
No, not at all. It was pretty silly. It was fun. It was such a fun scene, especially since Liz and Bishop together get to solve this problem. Good old pals back at it again or something. which was nice, but it doesn't help them unlock anything other than like, oh wow, we stumbled on something.
Or does it?
Yeah.
There was a really interesting article. We'll link it in the website or something. I don't know if we actually do that, but from Slate from 2012 by Lo and Lou, where he found out that there's these patches that were being worn by part of our American intelligence agency, a classified division of the American intelligence apparatus that actually has the term C-Tech astronomy in it.
Oh wow.
Now, supposedly, these are just patches that were, I don't know, possibly just worn as like jokes. And
Uh-huh.
the thing is about this patch, if you check it out, it's really weird. It's got some strange letters over the top. It's got a strange kind of a Groucho Marx face in the middle with a slash through it. 3 white stars, 1 black star. And apparently, like, it was just like kind of a joke around the office kind of thing. But some people got in real trouble for this in reality, because even if you're making jokes, like for instance, like the 3 stars and the black star, I recommend you check out the article, could be
Well, I'm looking at the
indications.
logo. It's
Right.
a pretty silly logo. Yeah.
But there might be like secret in jokes amongst intelligence personnel that they were later warned, and someone apparently got in a huge amount of trouble because, like, even these inside secret jokes that you guys are doing, like, foreign intelligence, if they're smart enough, they might be able to actually deduce legitimate, actionable secrets from.
Oh wow. Oh, so people got in trouble over this? It was like
Yeah.
it was like a wait, so it was like kind of like a casual Friday thing, and then they ended up getting in trouble for it. That's pretty funny.
And the NRO, coincidentally, if you think so, wasn't officially declassified until 9 days after Sneakers had been released to theaters.
Oh wow, that is very coincidental.
Very much so. All right, so David, do you think we're ready to come in from the cold now?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Agents, please report for debriefing on this operation. The director will see you now.
So I actually had seen this movie several times as a kid. This was like a family favorite, because my family was really into Robert Redford and Dan Aykroyd, so this kind of was right up their alley. And they would have known Sidney Poitier. They grew up with him, so they were a big fan of his. So this was like a perfect movie for them. It's like my mom and my uncle and I must have, and my grandma, we must have seen this movie about like 67 times when I was a kid. So going back and getting to watch it again was a lot of fun, especially since I'm really into spy movies now. Because like I definitely did not pick up on a lot of stuff, but it was a lot of fun watching again. But I don't know, for a rating, I don't know. It's what's interesting is how much this movie holds up. But it's there was a lot of plot holes. You know what I mean? But there was a lot of fantastic tradecraft. I think we go with like a 3.5. I mean, I would recommend this movie to anybody. Really. This is definitely, you can watch this movie several times. It's fun. It's hilarious. You'll definitely won't be disappointed. The cast is like ridiculous. It's like such a great cast. So I don't know, 3.5, maybe a 4, but I don't know. It's a really fun movie that you would want to watch again and again. Let's just say that.
I'm with you on several points there. Like, I feel like it's such a straight up, like, middle of the road movie that, like, I start from a 3. But I agree, it's a movie with broad appeal. You could show it to anyone. You could show it to your kids, and they'll catch up with some of the more complicated shit later on
Right.
later watches. You know, your parents will just dig seeing, you know, Poitier and Redford and Kingsley doing their things. But yeah, I'm gonna bump it up to that 3.5 just because of the tech. I think, you know, like we talked about in part one, this movie is literally like just such a great love letter to the tech of that time. It's like
Right.
right on the cusp of
Right.
the World Wide Web, of everything changing. It's, I don't know. There's obviously there's so many different points in the internet's, you know, and telecommunications history that you could call like that was the day everything changed.
Uh-huh.
But this one just really seems to be like, you know, just, and like I said, like, you know, so many Easter eggs about like, you know, the earlier stuff that yeah, that's why it's 3.5 for me.
That's a good point. Yeah. You want to go over our best and worst tradecraft?
Yeah, I'm ready to hear about your worst.
All
Just
right.
remind us.
Well, my number 3 was Liz leaving the purse with Ned. But I think that was more of a movie bad tradecraft, or like you discussed, a crease mistake. You know, since he was from the CIA.
Someone should, the pickle factory.
Yeah, that damn pickle factory. My number 2 was Martin not accepting asylum from Greg. I really think this was a really big part because this should be he should have been like, why the hell is the FBI going after me in a Russian diplomat's car? How do they know I'm in the car? Why are they coming after? I haven't done anything yet. This is before the Cosmo incident, so it was like he should have taken the asylum. And then my number 1 was Cosmo not having anybody follow Martin at all whatsoever at any point in the movie, despite them being able to get all of the information they needed.
Right, and that was also my number 3 worst because I think I can trump those with
Yeah.
yeah, my number 2 worst. You know, looking back on it, I think the NSA should have babysat their project and you know, told the mathematician not to just tell the world about what he was working on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My number 1 worst, I feel so bad about it because like even if you just cut out the last 6 seconds of the film, this
Uh-huh.
doesn't even happen. But I have to call it, Martin, don't bankrupt the RNC.
Oh yeah. That was,
Steal little bits of money here or there. That
yeah.
shit'll work. You know,
Yeah.
just going for the whole like stealing all their money. Everyone's gonna figure out that shit.
Then I guess I'll go over my best. My number 3 was Cosmo trying to flip Martin. Every step of the way, it was well kind of played out. We're still not sure how much was acting and how much was real, but it was. I just liked each step. So either plus spy points to the movie or plus spy points to Cosmo. My number 2 was the fake NSA guys are goons who just went to town on Martin, playing good cop, bad cop. Like really played their hand really well, played the cards at the right time, and really cornered Martin into being forced into a decision, and that only decision is seeking their help by helping him. And then even though the NSA guys was probably the best of the tradecraft, where everything was super well played out and executed, I want to put the hotel lobby as my number 1, just because that was so well played and so well shown on screen, and it's so quick, it's really easy to miss. But you know, in every spy movie or in any kind of like thriller or any kind of weird movie, detective, it's always like some guy pretending to like make a big delivery, like, hey, I'm gonna get fired here. You gotta let me in, hey, and then it works.
My number 3 goes to the voice stress analysis by Mother over the phone when they first called the NSA. Even though we agreed that the plausibility is not quite there, I just liked it.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Number 2, actually, maybe I should have flipped these because this one is so much more plausible. Or no, that's why it is my number 2. This is why it is higher ranked.
Yeah.
It also goes to Mother's work on isolating Ned through surveillance and audio snooping of the building interior that he does, you know, like by analyzing timestamps, keeping like all this surveillance, watching through all this camera footage. You know, yeah, it's good. And then, of course, like isolating the license plate number that leads them into their whole like way that they pull off the heist. Awesome shit. And of course, my number one, you know, we came close in this. My number one is like that the you know, pretend NSA guys, that cover story, and that not only their plan but their execution in the way that they recruit Martin was like 100% super slick.
Yeah, super duper slick. Redaction. I think you and I were discussing we might want to go over some of our old ratings.
Yeah.
That way we kind of get a better idea of what's going. We don't want to like step off, like, you know, we don't want to.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, what's this most comparable to of the things we've talked about before? We have plausible heroes, totally legit tech, but shit that didn't actually happen.
Or we don't think that happened, right?
We don't have any evidence of it. I think this is higher redacted than Most Wanted Man.
Yeah.
It's higher than a 2.
Right. And we gave Miss Sloan a 2, so we think it's less realistic than Most Wanted Man and Miss Sloan. But we gave From Russia with Love a 3. Right?
Yes, we did.
And we think it's more believable than From Russia with Love.
So we bring it down to a 2.5 at least.
I'm happy with that. That sounds good.
I think that's about where we land because, like, the 2 would be Miss Sloan, and the other 2 we have is Samurai Spy.
Yeah, and Samurai Spy was pretty solid, you know. And then our 1.5s are basically Most Wanted Man in the Company. So I think a 2.5 is pretty good.
2.5.
Yeah. And that's the end of our show. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at spies_like_us. Visit us on our website at www.spieslikeus.net. You know, find out about upcoming episodes. Also, what will really help us out is if you give us a review on wherever you found our podcast, either on iTunes or your Android app or YouTube or wherever you listen to us. Even if you didn't like the show, just give us a review. It'll help us, give us feedback so we can make the show better. And it can also help other people who haven't found the show yet find out about us. Hey, Moira, initiate Protocol 9.
Protocol 9 initiated. This podcast will self-destruct in 20 seconds. The preceding transmission sampled the songs Ice Cold by Audionautics, Enter the Party by Kevin MacLeod, and sound effects from freesound.org. Attributions and links are found at spieslikeus.net. Editing by Todd Hostetler.